Welcome back, everybody. You are here with Bright Lights in our graphic novel Flipside camp. My name's Renee, and I'm Education Coordinator for Bright Lights. I will be serving as your host, and I'm here with my friends Kristen and Lori, who will also be helping with hosting duties in the chat and Q&A. I just want to cover a few housekeeping items before we get started, and then I will turn this over to Nichole so we can learn more about graphic novels. Remember, because we're in a webinar format, we can't see your picture or hear you, but don't worry, that's how it's supposed to work. However, if you want to ask questions, you'll just want to use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Just type in your question or comment and we will see it. There'll be some polls today that you'll get to answer with Miss Nichole. So when those pop up, make sure that you're participating. I also want to let you know that we are recording the session and we'll have a link to this to our YouTube channel so you can watch this again in about a week or share it with new people. And I would also like to thank Black Hills Energy for sponsoring this Flipside camp and for being a very long time supporter for Bright Lights. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Miss Nichole so that we can learn more about graphic novels today, right?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of Wham Bam Kapow. Let's make a graphic novel. It's great to have you back. Yesterday, we had a few technical difficulties, and I realized that I was never able to share my very favorite book with you. So I thought I'd bring it today. As you can see, it's pretty old. It's a very well-loved book. It was so loved that I put my name in the cover with my very fancy color-changing pen. But my favorite book, and the book that actually inspired me to become a children's book author, is Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And it is, like we talked about yesterday, a book with lots of pictures. Shel Silverstein's also the illustrator. But it is actually a collection of poetry, which I'm a children's poet too. So this is the book that inspired me to become a children's book author. And I will share with you my very, very, very favorite poem from Where the Sidewalk Ends, because it's super simple, and it was called Lazy Jane, and it went like this. Lazy, 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 lazy Jane. She wants a drink of water, so she waits and waits and waits and waits and waits for it to rain. Super simple poem, super silly, and that is why I do what I do. So back to graphic novels. Like Renee said, we're going to be using the chat feature at the very bottom of the Zoom screen a lot today. So if I have a question for you guys and you have an answer, or you have a question for me that you'd like me to answer while I'm talking, feel free to throw it in the chat, and Miss Lori or Miss Kristen will share that with me. I see Jay said hi, and we'll get those questions answered, and you can answer some of the questions that I have for you. Like yesterday, I asked you what your favorite book was, or what inspires you to create graphic novels. So one other thing that you're probably going to want to need, we have some helpful supplies. While we're working today, you might want to jot down some ideas. If you get inspiration for a fabulous character or a story idea, make sure you've got a pencil and a piece of paper handy so you can write those ideas down. And we're going to do some games and different things too to kind of get our creative juices flowing. So if you don't have those, feel free, go run and grab them and come back really, really quick, and we will be here. We're just going to review a few things that we learned about yesterday. So we talked about yesterday starting a graphic novel or a story of any sort, and the most important parts to getting that story started. We talked about the characters, which are the things or people or animals that your story is about. We talked about the setting, which is where your story takes place. And with both of those things, we talked about really getting to know them before you start the story. We talked about interviewing your characters, and I hope you had a chance to interview someone at home yesterday to see and learn more about the characters that you're using to create your graphic novels. We also talked about setting and getting to know that by using your senses, your sense of touch, your sense of smell, sight, sounds, all of the different things that are around you. Another cool thing to learn more about a setting is just to go outside and think, what do I hear? Do you hear birds? Do you hear car horns? What do I see? Do you see other people? Do you see animals? All of those different things. Okay? And then we had to talk really quickly about those two forms of action. And we're going to talk more about that first one today because it's very important as you're starting your graphic novel. The action or the conflict that's in your story, because that's really going to be what's motivating or moving your characters to do what they want to do. So if you have any questions on those three things, feel free to chat, put them in the chat. Oh, what is my favorite graphic novel? Liam asked me. Oh, my favorite graphic novel. That is a tough one. You know, I've been kind of on the fence with Dogman. I'll be honest. It's not my very favorite. I tend to like illustrated picture books a little bit more than I like graphic novels because I like more text than I like pictures, which is kind of funny. Do I have any pets? I do not have any pets, but I do have 2 kids, and they give me a lot of inspiration. Do you like Dogman? I have a copy of Fetch 22 right here. Dogman's pretty popular at our house. Okay, so we've got our characters, whatever those may be. We've got our setting, you know where your story is going to take place. Now we're going to talk about a story arc, which might be something you've heard of. It might be something you've never heard of before, but I drew this very fancy illustration to show you what a story arc is. And you might remember from yesterday that I told you that I am not an artist. And I think my illustration kind of proves that. But a story arc is basically how you get from the beginning of your story, where you introduce your characters and your setting and your problem, and how you get all the way to the end, where you solve that problem. Do you see how it kind of makes an arc? Yeah? So that's pretty cool. And everything that happens in the middle, that's just the story. You have your beginning, your middle, and your end. Seems pretty simple, huh? And that might be a little bit deceiving because you have to think about the ways that your characters are going to do those things and how they're going to get there, which can be tricky. So this might be something that you've learned about in school a little bit, but your teachers probably ask you to kind of think things through. It says, do I like to read other books? Man, I do. I love to read. I read everything that I can find around. I like poetry. I really like Jane Austen, which you may or may not have heard of before. She wrote a very long time ago. They call her one of the classic authors. But then I also like to read silly kids books too, and I read like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, if you guys have read any of those. When I was a kid, I loved the Babysitter's Club. And I was so excited when they started turning the Babysitter's Club books that I read as a kid into graphic novels. Let's see. I might have to turn my chat a little bit bigger so I can see all of these awesome
Nichole,
questions.
this is Lori. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Miss Lori. Yes, I can hear you.
Right. So we have a question from Cassandra. Have you ever gotten inspired for a book from your kids?
I find inspiration from my kids all the time because guess what? They never go away. They're always here. And I talked a little bit yesterday, and I'll show you a picture of this one, Sharky Dreams of Pizza. And it is one of the books that my daughter helped inspire because she had an idea for a story that is very different than this one. But it was about a boy named Sharky who befriended a giant pizza. But I kind of put a twist on that story and turned it into a book about a shark who loved pizza. So yeah, I definitely get inspired by my kids. Do you guys get inspired by your families? Probably too, because they're always there and they always have cool ideas. I think I've got all our questions answered for a little bit.
I think you're good.
Okay. So we're going to move on to ways that you can organize your story. So we're going to create a storyboard. And I have some suggestions here on different ways that you can create a storyboard, but this is not the only way you can do it. You guys, the coolest, best thing about being an author is you can do it any way you want to. This is probably one of my favorite ways to organize a story because I do children's picture books, which are a little bit different than graphic novels. Well, A, they're not as long. Picture books generally are anywhere from 32 to 40 pages long. So when I start a new picture book, what I like to do is I make a blank book. So I just take paper and I fold it in half, and I usually staple it. Sometimes I don't even staple it. But this is where I start with my idea because I know how many pages I have to fill. So I think about the beginning of my story and how I want to introduce the character. This is for the book, Zany Can Do Anything. This is the original. You guys are seeing it here first. The original Zany Can Do Anything. It's not very fancy, but it helped me organize my ideas. So in a book, you always have the copyright page. And I'm sorry if some of these are hard to see, it's in pencil. And usually you put a dedication in a book. And then I just started writing out the words that I thought would be super interesting. So this one says, this is how I started the book in my head when I was thinking about the idea. Everyone assumes that every unicorn loves rainbows and butterflies, that they all eat candy and sunshine and are always happy and do nothing but sing and play all day. Because I wanted this book to be about how unicorns don't always have to be what everybody thinks they are. And then we just kept going from there. The cool thing about how I get to make picture books is that my husband, Tevin, is actually the illustrator of most of my books. And so we kind of do things together a little bit. So I go in, and I really hope you guys can see this okay. So I wrote some words, and then Tevin comes in, and he just starts sketching some picture ideas for what the pictures might look like. I think this was actually one of my illustrations. Pretty fancy, huh? And so we had this idea, and it just kept going, and different kinds of foods. This one might look familiar. That is actually what ended up being the cover of the book. So we created a storyboard that looks like an actual book. And you can kind of see, I think this
is...
And
Miss Nichole, do you have it all planned out in your head before you started the first words?
Not really. So we kind of go in, and that's why it's in pencil, guys. Which I fight with my kiddos about using pencils, because when you use a pencil, you can erase and you can change things up. That's actually a good idea, Miss Lori, because this is another way that you can storyboard an idea. This is another way that I really like to do. Do you guys ever have Post-it notes flying around your house? So I just put some really silly things on here. But this is, and they're backwards, so they're hard to read, but this says, talk to mom, steal a bike, ooh, learn about magic, get superpowers. So these are all the things that I might want to happen in my story. And the cool thing about Post-it notes is, let's decide that I want my main character to meet a friend, but I think he should meet his friends before he gets superpowers. So I can move the Post-it notes around to know the order of what I want my story to go in. Another cool thing about Post-it notes is, let's say I decide that I don't really want my main character to get superpowers. So I throw that one away, and you can put a new Post-it note there and decide what new thing that you would like to happen in your story. So Post-it notes are a really cool way to organize your thoughts and ideas before you get started. And one thing I'll tell you.
We have a couple quick questions. Do you have to have a copyright page?
If you're just making a book that is just for you and just for your family, you do not have to have a copyright page. Since we sell our books and they go into stores and libraries and schools and a little bit of everywhere, we are required legally to include some type of copyright information. So this will be something, and this is actually the very first Zany illustration. You can see that Zany's changed a little bit between that and in there. So this book, we actually moved a lot of things around. So there's the title page in the book, but it just goes straight into the story. And you'll notice this, guys, as you're looking through books in the library, or from school or at your house, they're not always set up the exact same way. So on this one, we put the copyright information at the very back of the book with the dedication for all the zany unicorns out there, and with our author bios and things in that too. So we do have to include the copyright information. That's an important part of what we do as a business. But when you're creating books at home, you don't necessarily have to have an official copyright. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing any questions. So
Right.
that is one.
I'm watching too. So.
Hey guys, guess what? I have a surprise because there he is. So this is Tevin Hansen, guys. He is the illustrator of Zany Can Do Anything, but he's also the author and the illustrator of Robby the Skater Zombie.
Talking of Robby the Skater Zombie, I heard you guys talking about books that you make at home. This one was made at home. I drilled holes through the paper and we tied it with rope. So I heard you guys talking about copyright, and you guys were talking about Speedo Vision. Here's the original Speedo Vision. It was an idea that I came up with, but I decided to not use it. You guys talked about Dave Pilkey, Captain Underpants.
You guys remember Fliporama?
Fliporama.
Oh.
So I came up with Speedo Vision. I thought it was a good idea, but then I still decided to not use it. So you guys can check that out if you want.
Okay.
You guys have a lot to learn, so
Thanks for coming
enjoy
by.
the class. Be safe,
Good
guys.
to see you. That was exciting.
I know, you never know who you'll meet around Handersen Publishing. But this was Speedo Vision, guys. We talked a little bit about Fliporama. Do you guys remember what book Fliporama was from? Captain Underpants. So
Yeah.
this is Speedo Vision. And as you can see, there's instructions, and he's very excited. And basically, it's just graphic novel sections, and you look at them really, really fast. Here's another thing. This is another type of storyboard, guys. So this is, you can see the illustrations that are in here. We kind of put some rough text in, and that is still not the final book. So we could still do lots of editing and lots of fun things with that. It's pretty crazy and it's pretty wild. Speaking of storyboards and test runs and trying things out, this is another early version of Robby the Skater Zombie. And this, guys, is something you can totally make at home. It's just paper folded in half. And we went through. It has handwritten text. There's the original, that's what Robby originally looked like. And all of the original illustrations. And there, again, these are in pencil, and that way it's really easy if you want to go in and change anything. Kind of see.
It's so fun to see that, Nichole, because we just see the end product all shiny on the page in the bookstore.
You get to see the book, and you get to see what the final illustrations look like. It's kind of cool that they look so different. But here's the thing that a lot of people think making books, when you get that book at the bookstore, it looks like it was pretty simple to do. But Robby the Skater Zombie has been through a hand-drawn copy, another storyboard. We talked about characters. We did a lot of character development with what we wanted the illustrations to look like and the style. This is a really, really early one. But then it also involves, this is one of about 5 binders. And remember, guys, graphic novels are generally anywhere from 100 to 400 pages long, the ones that you read at the store. So that's a lot of illustrations. You can see there's a lot of illustrations that went into this book.
Wow.
So that's something. But that said, you guys at home who might not have, we have special computer programs and different things that we use to put it together. But as long as you have paper and a pencil, you guys can create your own original graphic novel. You can storyboard it out using Postit Notes to create an idea. Another really simple way to create a story outline is an outline. So you can use just one piece of paper, and you just write, okay, this is the beginning, and you put the things on there that you want to happen. So you can put your introductions, your middle, and your end. It's super simple. And then you just start creating and drawing and using all of those things that we've talked about, because by this point, you already know your characters. You already know where they're at. You know what the problem is. And now you're just figuring out a way to solve it. Does anybody have any questions? We're kind of blasting through some information today.
Do you ever dream about your characters?
No, I was trying to find. I don't tend to dream a lot, which is kind of weird. I think everybody has a few dreams, but I don't. But Mr. Tevin, who was just here, his book, and I don't have a copy of it right here now, he has a book that he wrote called Alexia and Melvin. It's called The Birthday Bear, and it was an actual dream that he had. And he told me about it, and it was about he was at a birthday party, and there was a bear there, and everybody thought he was a party entertainer, but he was a real bear. And so we turned that into a story about a girl who was very smart and very clever and had to outsmart the bear. So dreams are a great source of inspiration.
Yeah, I can see that. Someone just asked if the writer has to copyright the book, or does the publisher do that when it's a published book?
Hey, fun fact about copyright. The author and the illustrator generally hold copyright to the text and illustrations. The publisher might buy it from them, but the second you put an idea on a piece of paper, you hold copyright to that idea. How cool is that? You can choose to file it. You can choose to not file it. But if you have the original idea, like we have the original Robby the Skater zombie, and we know about when it was written, you know, because we wrote it. So we hold, Tevin Hansen holds the copyright to this. So basically, Handersen Publishing, Tevin is giving us permission. He's saying, hey, yes, you can publish my idea, my words, and my illustrations, and we sign a contract for a specific length of time that we are allowed to use his work, or my work, even when we publish my books too.
Someone asked if, what if someone doesn't have an idea for a graphic novel? What could get them started?
So what can get them started? We talked a little bit about this last time.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull this up a little bit so you guys can see too, if I can find it. So what could give you an idea for a graphic novel? So doing some of those things that we did, those games that we played where you are coming up with so many ideas all at the same time. Do you guys remember yesterday we did things at the beach that start with the letter S? So sometimes just doing games like that where your brain has to think really, really, really fast can start to fire off all of those and make new ideas start to come into your brain. Like I said, taking a walk sometimes can be inspirational because you're looking around and thinking of new things. Another great way to find inspiration is reading lots of books. Because when you're reading lots of books, you're seeing lots of different ideas and different characters, and you're seeing them do different things and fun things, and that will give you ideas for your own books, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
And a couple quick ones here. How long have you been writing?
Oh, so I wrote my first book when I was 5 years old, and I had, it doesn't exist anymore, but I had chicken pox. And I don't know if you're familiar with chicken pox, but you had to stay home, kind of like you had to quarantine yourself so you didn't share your chicken pox with anybody else. And so I was home and really bored, and chicken pox are really itchy and scratchy, and my mom wanted to help me be distracted. And so she had the idea that we would write a book together. And so I told her a story, and she wrote down the words, and then I drew all of the pictures for the book. And it was about two princesses who had two pets. One princess had a cat and one princess had a dog. And I don't really remember what happened after that, but that was my very first book. I've been writing since I was 5 years old.
That's cool. Let's see. Oh, will you be inspired to write a book about your week with us?
You know, you guys have had so many fabulous ideas when we've been brainstorming, and we're going to play another game here in a bit. And I know it's going to give me a ton of crazy fun ideas because we get to be creative and we get to think of new things, and it'll be very silly, but I think I will definitely be inspired to write another book.
Cool. All right.
So we're gonna move on. Are you guys ready? Okay, so we know we have to create a story arc. We know we have to think about the story before we actually start writing the story, because you kind of want to know where you're headed. Tevin always says when he writes a story that generally he knows what's going to happen at the beginning, and then he knows what's going to happen at the end, but then you have to fill in all the blanks on the way. So you want to kind of have an idea. You need to know where you're going. Kind of like when you're traveling with your family, you want to know where you're going to end up. Are you going to end up at Grandma and Grandpa's house? Are you going to end up at Mount Rushmore? You know, where are you traveling to? And then you figure out how you're going to get there. And writing a story is kind of the exact same thing. Let's see. So I think we're ready to do something a little bit fun, because we've been chatting. So we're going to talk a little bit about the cover of the book. And this would be, you know what the story is, you know what's going to happen in the story. But when you think about the cover of a book, like Robby the Skater Zombie, can you guys chat up and give me a few things that you think are important on a cover? So what do you think are going to be some of the most important things that you see? Big lettering, I like that one. The title, obviously, you have to know. Pictures and illustration is really important. The author name. The author name is really important. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's little, but it's important to have on there, because if you guys know the characters' bright colors, when you go to the library or a bookstore and you're looking at all of those books on there, you're not going to know what they're about. You're just going to see the cover first. It's your first impression of a book. And so you want it to catch people's attention. Yeah, you want a picture of the main characters is generally on the book. You want a catchy title that looks like it would be fun to read. Yeah, getting the main characters, I like that. The price. This one does have the price on the cover. Usually the price isn't on the cover. This is one of my samples. Sometimes Handersen Publishing is at the Haymarket Farmers Market, so we have sample copies out on the table. Ooh, I like this. Corey says it needs to be intriguing. So if something is intriguing, that means that it makes you curious about it. You want to know what the book is about, because our job as a publisher is to make you actually not just want to look at the cover, but to actually open the book up and see what it's about and be interested in the story and the characters. So we've got a title, we've got an author, and we've got an illustration. It's pretty straightforward what's on the front cover of a book, but you want to make it interesting. So we're going to do a little game, and I think Renee's got our poll ready to go. And then we're going to do...
Yes, I do.
Perfect. So have you guys ever done Mad Libs before? So Mad Libs, what we're going to do a poll, and it has a noun and an adjective, which is a word to describe, a verb, which is an action word, and then also a place. And we're going to turn that into a title for a book. So also have your piece of paper ready too. And we're going to turn that into a title of a book. And then we're going to think about ways that we could make this new crazy title something that would be engaging and intriguing for our readers, that they would want to pick up off the bookshelf and read to find out more about.
All right, I will launch the polling
Okay,
for
we're
our
gonna
first
launch
one,
those.
the noun, right?
You guys do the polls, and I will, if you guys have questions coming through too. Ooh, you're going to choose a noun, and this will actually be our character for our story that our book is going to be about.
Oh, there they go.
Are they
They're off
going?
to the races.
Dun, dun,
Like
dun.
watching a race.
Oh, do I actually get to vote too?
I did allow panelists to vote, so
Okay.
you can put your
It's my
choice
favorite.
in there.
This says, do I know what my next book will be about? You know what, guys? Here's the deal. I just released Zany in February this year, and I've got about 4 or 5 ideas rolling around in my head right now, but I'm waiting to see which one pops to the front and seems like it'll be the best plan. I also have to wait until my illustrator's ready for a new project, so it might be a while before I have another book out.
All right, we've got 90% of our people in. I'm going to give everybody a couple more seconds if you haven't had a chance to vote, and then I'm going to end it, and it looks like dog is the one that is it.
Okay.
So you got that? Everybody have dog. That's your noun.
Got dog. So we know our main character is going to be a dog. And then we will do our next one to see.
All right. Sorry, everybody.
No worries.
Now we're going to.
Oh, here we go. An adjective.
We're
So this will
choosing
be a
adjective.
word that is going to describe our dog in our book title. And while we're doing our poll, guys, I did see a question earlier that says, how long does it take to make a book start to finish? And that is a tricky answer because different books take different amounts of time. A picture book from concept to publication generally takes at least a year, and that's pretty quick. Longer books like Robby the Skater Zombie are probably going to take, I'd say, at least 2 years to get through. We do a lot of editing, and then longer books. And this one is just a middle grade book, not a whole lot of illustrations. This book has actually been in the works for about 3 or 4 years. So they take a lot of time. This one says, a title needs to be on your cover. Is that true? You know, I will say yes. You want your title to be on it. Every once in a while, a publisher might decide to be clever or silly and not put the title on the front of the book, but that's not a super great idea. If you've done any shopping online, your cover of your book's going to be what people see, and if they can't see the title of the book, they're probably not even going to look at it. Ooh,
all right, I'm going to end the polling for the adjectives. And
ooh, you guys are giving me some new book ideas now too. What are we? Ooh, we're having a purple dog. This is exciting.
All right, on to our next one.
You know what, guys? I have not. So Elise asked me if I knew the book Bob is a Unicorn. And Laurelyn asked me if I had ever read the Warrior Cat series. And you know what, guys? I have not read either of those books, but I am already writing them down so that next time I go get books from the library, I can check them out because I love, we're going to choose an action word next, guys. I love discovering new books. And I know that if they are recommended by students and kids like you, that they have to be good because you've read them, and you guys, it's a tough choice to pick a good book. So I always take recommendations very seriously.
There were some questions earlier, Nichole, if you like to dance and sing, and then I see that one of our action word options is dancing.
You know what? I love to dance and sing. I think it is so fun. When I do events for the new book, Zany the Unicorn, there's actually a Zany song, and I sing it. And we do some dances and some actions that go with the song while I perform and we read from the book. So I think dancing is a great way to work out and exercise, but also it's another one of those inspiration words, because when you dance and it's kind of like running or jumping or exercising in any shape or form. Oh, speaking of dancing.
The winner.
It's another way to get your brain going so it can be super creative and keep moving. I think we have one more, guys. We're going to figure out where our purple dog is going to dance.
Oh, let's see here. Forest.
Where's he going to dance? Okay, so if you guys were getting close, this will be our last poll, and we're going to go. So if you have your piece of paper ready, and I know we can't share our pictures, of what our titles look like, but think of it as like a practice exercise to get your brain rolling and moving along so you can think about an idea. Or we might have, let's see, we've got 52 friends on graphic novel today. So we might have 52 versions of the purple dog who loved to dance at the question mark. Or you might make it something else. You might turn it into your own idea. And maybe he's not a purple dog. He is, ooh, okay. But then you can turn this, somebody asked, what happens if you don't have an idea? Well, maybe this is a good idea to practice. So we're gonna make the purple dog who danced at the, okay guys, so here's the title of our book, and it's backwards, but you will figure it out. The Purple Dog Who Danced at the Beach. And I'll still keep answering some questions, but you guys feel free to listen and draw and see if you can figure out what it's gonna look like that the purple dog danced at the beach. And I'm going to talk and try to draw at the same time too. And I will see if Miss Lori will try to do the same. And maybe she and I can share our pictures with you of the purple dog who danced at the beach.
Okay, I'm on it.
Oh, yes.
It's not backwards. We could read it fine.
Oh, can you?
Way.
Okay, good. Because to me it looks backwards. So that's a good thing
worries.
to know. Oh, Elise is telling me that Bob is a Unicorn is not a graphic novel. And Bodhi said it's not backwards. I am so glad, Bodhi, that it is not backwards. And it says I misspelled danced. And I did. You guys are catching me. That's what happens when I try to talk and do other things. I need all the help I can get, guys. Okay. So remember, I'm doing this very quickly, and I am also not an illustrator, but I still like to try.
Me too.
Let's see if I can. I think Miss Lori's and mine are doing this. Oh, Kenneth said, could his name be purple? You know, his name could be purple.
I like that.
Guys, you can turn this into whatever you want to. I love art and making books because that's what's so fun about it, is you get to be the creative ideas. You get to have those.
Oh, goodness. That is silly. I have a feeling some of our friends.
I think they're gonna question our abilities, but that's okay. And if it is gonna be purple, we should. Okay, guys, here we go.
Oh, purple, yes. Right.
You know, oops, my little dog. Okay, this.
Purple is my favorite
Oh wait,
color.
if we're at the beach, and you know what, guys?
Right.
So here's my work in progress. I'm working on it. The purple dog who danced at the beach. But I forgot a very important part of my book cover. Let's see if anybody can figure it out. What's missing?
Your name?
My name is missing. Yeah, there it is. Adeline figured it out first.
I just saw her. I didn't come up with that. That was Miss Adeline.
Oh, okay.
All right, I have mine.
Okay, I think
So bad, but fun. All right.
Oh, it's not purple.
See.
Oh, man. You know what? This is my lucky day that you guys picked purple, because the only thing that I have at my desk right now is a purple highlighter. So now my dog.
So mine is Harry Hound has a sandy hoedown. And here he is. He's dancing with his balloon. No, that's a beach ball. And I said by Miss Lori. But Harry Hound has a sandy hoedown.
So what's cool about Miss Lori's, guys, and you might figure this out too, is she changed the title. And you can do that, and that's totally cool. But her title still lets you know that it's about a dog and that the dog is at the beach. So your title you want your title to let the reader know what's going to happen in the book. Give them a little hint. You don't want to give it all away, but you want to give them a little hint. So that is kind of starting your cover for your book. The last thing we're going to talk about today, guys, as you're going through this, is the layout and design of your book. Okay, so how will the interior of your book look? And I showed you a lot of examples yesterday. We kind of looked at Dogman, and we looked at a few others. Today I have Squish. I don't know if any of you guys have read Squish, but you can see how the book is set up. A lot of graphic novels use these little squares. They also use a lot of speech bubbles. That's really common in graphic novels. But you'll notice one thing. I hope you notice that. No two pages look the same. Okay? They're similar. There's similarities on all of them, but no two pages are exactly the same. And I think I remember somebody asked yesterday about how many boxes you can use when you're making a layout. And you can do however many you want. This one only has 2. This one has 4. They're not straight. They're in different ways. Here's one that has lots. Okay. And if you go online, guys, I added to the material that's on the Bright Lights website for the graphic novel sessions. There are like, I want to say 10 or 15 different sample layouts, and you can actually print those if you have that capability, or you can look at them and kind of copy how they look. But mostly your layout needs to make sense for what's happening on that page. Okay, so if you have a lot going on a page, like this one, for example, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then all of these cool arrow things to get more of the story across. You want your page to make sense, so it kind of goes in order like a comic book. It happens in sequence, happens in order. Okay, and you want to change it up, so you want it to look different every time. Another thing you can do with your layout is if you want to sketch something, you can do a sample page. You can, grab your piece of paper and just draw kind of what you want. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like your finished project. It's just a sample of what you want it to look like. Kind of like Mr. Tevin's Robby the Skater zombie. It was a sample of what he wanted the end book to look like. Okay. So you can make another option is just like this one. You can make a practice book before you make your final artwork, so that you can make sure it looks exactly like you want it to look, because nothing is more frustrating than working really, really hard on a project and messing up just a little bit and having to start over. It happens. It's inevitable. It's going to happen even when you're working on your books. But if you practice and you kind of sketch things out and you make an outline and a plan, it will happen less when you're working on that very last part of the project. Yeah. Braxton asked me if I live in Lincoln. I do live in Lincoln. I actually live way, 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 way up north and west in Lincoln. So my kids go to Arnold Elementary School in Lincoln. Yeah. And it looks like Anna is making a book called The Dancing Dog. I like that one. And Braxton asked what my husband's name is. His name is Tevin Hansen. So I was trying to find, there's Robby the Skater zombie. There's his name.
Oh, there it is.
Tevin Hansen. I was going to see if I could find a picture. Oh, so this is Tevin when he was a kid. He was an actual skateboard punk. So he is, and still skateboards some today. So does anybody else have any other questions? Narwhal and Jelly. I love Narwhal and Jelly. And the crazy thing about Narwhal and Jelly is it is actually considered a graphic novel. To me, it looks more like a picture book, but when they categorize it in the libraries, they categorize it as a graphic novel, which I think is interesting. Oh, Bodhi's a skateboarder too. And Corey is making a 300-page book called The Pickle.
Oh.
I like it. You know, That has been a common theme, are the pickle books. So I teach graphic novel clubs for after school programs some, and I've had a few graphic novel pickle books, and it's always interesting to see how everybody twists it just a little bit to make it their own idea. And like Braxton has one called Brax the Baseball Beast. Oh, okay. That one's interesting. I like that you have all the bees in there. I do poetry, like I said. And so when you use lots of letters that are the same, so Brax the Baseball Beast, it's called alliteration. And it's one of my favorite poetry things. Probably didn't even realize you were doing it. Okay, guys. Well, that is about all I have for today. So if you have any more questions, Gina is making a book called Burp Man 2. So I'm guessing that Gina has already had a Burp Man 1, which would be a funny book to read. But if you have any more questions, now's your chance. This is our last day of graphic novel club. So I will say that. Or guys, if you ever, if you go to NicholeHansen.com or TevinHansen.com, that's our website, you can get a hold of us there through email, or you can make a message if you have any questions after this. Okay.
Oh, do you type your books? Is one of the questions on the Q&A. Do you type your books?
Do I type my books? I do. I generally type all of the text. With Zany the Unicorn happened a little bit differently. It wasn't our traditional way to go. Generally, I type all of the text like in a Word document, so with no pictures, and that's just so I have it someplace that it's safe and I can save it and it won't get lost. One interesting way that I did, so when I had the idea for Sharky Dreams of Pizza, I was actually in my car driving to a conference that was far away, and all of a sudden the words for the book started to pop into my head, and you can't drive and write. So I turned the recorder on my phone, and there's actually a voice recording of me saying all the words that I wanted to be in the book. And then when I got home, I listened to it and I typed them up really fast.
Wow, that's interesting.
Do you have a website that can make comic books online? I do not have a website that could make comic books online. Do you know what I'm thinking about doing though, guys? So I put all of these presentations together for our sessions yesterday and today, and I'm contemplating putting them all together in a book and then having a bunch of pages at the end where you can kind of make your own graphic novel at the end of the kind of workbook thing. How did I learn to be an author and publisher? Oh, you know what? It takes a lot of research, guys. I did not go to school to learn how to be an author, but I've kind of learned on the job. So every book that we make, we get a little bit better and a little bit better. We do a lot of practice. I do a lot of research on the internet. I read a ton of books. And I also talk to a lot of other authors. And so I can learn the things that they've done in the past that might help me moving forward. So it's a lot of research and a lot of talking to people and a ton of reading books. Oh, how did I make the backdrop? You guys want to know a secret about the Wham Bam Kapow backdrop? It's actually a tablecloth. Yeah. Oh, Braxton says, can we meet your kids? You know what? They are floating around here somewhere, but I do have a picture of my family. That's us. We were at the pumpkin patch.
All right, Nichole, I put your www.nicholehansen.com in the chat that if people want to learn more about you or how to get in touch with you, I thought that would be helpful. And yeah, we are just so glad that everybody was able to join us today. Everybody, I know we can't see you, but give Miss Nichole a wave. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for coming in today.
And we really appreciated having everybody here. I hope you learned some things. I know I did. I don't know how you couldn't have with such a great teacher. And I can't wait to hear more about some of the graphic novels that you guys create. You can go to our Bright Lights Facebook page, and you can have your mom or dad take a picture of what you're working on, and they can post it there or send us a message. We would love to see your projects. Remember that we will be back here tomorrow again at 10, and I don't know about you, but I think eating ice cream sounds like a fun activity, and that is what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to be learning about the science behind making ice cream. So with that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I hope we get to see you again tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody.